You can.
Okay, we are here to convene the NGHP Holding Corporation Board meeting on April 10th. Welcome to everybody. Sarah, do you want to read the roll? Tell us who's missing?
Yep, Madam Chair, in the interest of time, I'll have the record reflect, if it's okay with you, that we have all members present, either remotely or in person at one of the offices, with the exception of Adrian Swizerski.
Great, thank you. The first order of business is the election of officers behind tab 1. This is the annual meeting of the board. We must adopt a resolution designating the authorized officers of the NGHP subsidiary. May we have a motion, please? Janice, our friends in Buffalo. We have a second?
Jones.
Joan, great. Thank you, Joan. Second, all in favor of approving the list of officers behind tab 1? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. May we now have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 12th board meeting behind tab 2? Robert, thank you. Somebody second?
Sure.
Great, thank you, Janice. All in favor? Any opposed? No. Any abstentions? No. Motion carries. Next, over to Beryl for the governance report.
I'd like to report on the governance committee meeting of the NGHP board that occurred yesterday evening. The governance committee for the subsidiary conducted its annual review of the subsidiary bylaws and the mission statement and the performance measures and metrics to quantify performance goals. Neither staff nor governance committee is recommending any changes to these documents at this time. The full board, however, is required to review the bylaws annually. The other documents mentioned are subject only to committee review, which has occurred yesterday. I'd like to now return to Chairman Gomez to continue the meeting.
Great, thank you. This will confirm that the members have reviewed the bylaws that satisfies the annual review requirement. No vote is necessary. Okay, back to Craig for the Vice President's report on tab 4.
Very good. Thank you. My presentation today will be brief and is intended to provide an overview of the annual NGHP President's Report, which is included in the board materials. I will touch on the history leading to now and events that have transpired over the last year since the April 2023 annual update. By now, I believe all are aware of the circumstances that led to NGHP receiving title to North General Hospital following its bankruptcy and ultimate closure nearly 14 years ago. At its core, North General was one of 11 financially distressed hospitals in the 1980s and 90s that participated in the secured hospital program, whereby New York State financially backed the hospital bonds. Upon North General's closure, the Division of Budget assumed bondholder payments and the property was conveyed to this DASNY subsidiary as mortgagee. A detailed account of the history has been provided to the board in the accompanying President's Report. As for current events, NGHP continues to lease the main hospital building to New York City Health and Hospitals, or H&H, for use as a 210-bed long-term acute care hospital, known as the Henry J. Carter Specialty Hospital. Such lease payments vary and are based on the Medicaid capital cost reimbursement that H&H receives from DOH for the non-depreciated value of the building it occupies. I know, that's technical right there. H&H was expecting to make its annual lease payment to NGHP by March 31st, 2024. However, questions recently arose within H&H about the source data and calculation used to determine such rent payments, and additional research has become necessary. Discussions with H&H are expected in the coming weeks. These lease payments are typically first used to cover property insurance costs incurred by NGHP, while the balance gets forwarded to the Division of Budget to reimburse past or offset current state financial obligations associated with the old secured hospital program. H&H lease payments to NGHP will continue for so long as H&H receives Medicaid capital cost reimbursement associated with the original North General building they occupy. Once H&H stops receiving these Medicaid capital cost reimbursement payments attributable to the lease, the property can be conveyed to H&H and the NGHP subsidiary can be dissolved. Lastly, I want to assure the board that the cost to hold this property related to NGHP is not creating any financial burden on either DASNY or its NGHP subsidiary. Annual lease payments from H&H cover any expenses associated with holding the property, including insurance-related expenses, and there are currently enough funds in the NGHP account to cover this year's expected insurance obligation. That concludes my prepared remarks, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
It was a successful, we did this about 13, 14 years ago. It was pretty,
Yeah.
at the time, it was sort of like, what were we doing? Because the whole hospital was going into bankruptcy, as I remember. Right, so it worked out well, anyway. Be quiet.
I'll say this to the board. I think we're getting closer. We're getting closer, and I expect that my conversation with H&H in the coming weeks will clarify how much non-depreciated asset remains that they're collecting reimbursement on that comes to us in forms of rent payment. So Jerry, in the past, you've asked, when can this be dissolved? You know, it might be sooner rather than later, but I want to have that conversation with H&H, and I think more clarity will be had.
Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you, Craig. Any other questions on this? Okay, may we have a motion to adjourn and move to the SESC Corporation? Beryl and Wellington, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Any abstentions? No. We are adjourned for NGHP.